Yo, what is good people, Ben from Lover of Tech, and we are back with another video, this time camera comparison. OnePlus 12 versus the OnePlus 12R and the OnePlus Nord 4. Better late than ever, but never late is better. We finally have our hands on with the OnePlus 12, so let's test out the camera performance across the main OnePlus family products for 2024. So yes, photos and videos for daylight and low light. So let's get into the camera comparison and see how they perform. Okay, let's kick things off with analyzing the photos first between the OnePlus 12, the 12R, and the OnePlus Nord 4. And we're pretty much going to be analyzing in different situations, in daylight and in low light. And then we're going to be flipping over to analyzing the video performance across the board. Of course, there will be chapters as mentioned, so definitely kick back, relax, and enjoy it, as we are pretty much going to make this a definitive, detailed one. And we are pretty much going to be looking at the daytime images first. Let's start with the landscape shots without meeting the frame as the subject, as we're going through the different focal ranges. And we're going to start from the outside and I'll work our way in, and with the ultra wide. And of course, looking at what I'm seeing right here, the OnePlus 12R really saturates and prioritizes the saturation and the blue of the sky a lot more. But when it comes to the OnePlus 12, it is looking to be a lot more neutral, but with a slightly more bump and a warm look to the green of the foliage of the grass. Whereas the Nord 4 actually has a balance of both. The sky is pretty much on the neutral tone that you're seeing in the OnePlus 12, but not saturated like the 12R. And in terms of how the grass looks, it's very similar to the OnePlus 12. So it looks like really and truly the OnePlus Nord 4 is really taking the best of both worlds from what you're seeing in terms of the grass of the 12R, as I was meant to say, and also the look of the sky in the OnePlus 12. Then we'll move over to the main wide sensor. You can see how things really shift. In this particular situation, I think the OnePlus 12 is the one that really does the best, then followed by the 12R. But in some cases, based on personal preference and choice, some might like the slightly more saturated look, especially to the grass of the Nord 4, but it just doesn't look like the detail is there as much as what I'm seeing in the 12 and the 12R. Let's go into the 2x zoom mode. This is doing a 2x digital crop at the main wide sensor. And in this particular situation, it's the 12 that really holds detail well in terms of the processing. All the others in terms of the 12R and Nord 4 are actually doing a very good job, so it's not that much different. But if you can see how the colors is in the OnePlus 12 and also compared to the Nord 4, the Nord 4 is definitely a lot more warmer, so just something to consider there. But I feel like the 12R does look a bit softer than I was expecting. Now, into the 3x zoom mode, this is optically favoring the periscope zoom lens on the OnePlus 12, whereas the others are still doing a digital crop. So definitely you can see it that the OnePlus 12 is the one in the middle that really looks the best, whereas the other two are falling apart. And I feel like the 12R is the one that's falling apart a bit more than the Nord 4. To my eye, the Nord 4 does look more pleasing and more detailed overall. Now, if we extend it further into the 6x zoom mode, this is doing the optical zoom crop on the 3x optical on the OnePlus 12. So there's still some image processing there. And the other side, in the 5x digital, this is pretty much the next phase that you see in the camera UI. And yeah, things really look like they're falling apart in the OnePlus 12R. In fact, the Nord 4 is doing a better job than the 12R in this particular situation, and the 12 is definitely running away with it. Now, extending it further to 10x zoom, definitely beyond here, I just wouldn't do anything more for the OnePlus Nord 4 as well as the 12R. The 12 seems to still hold a decent place, but it is going to start getting stretched a bit here. And why I say that is when we move over to the 30x zoom on the 12 and the 20x zoom on the Nord 4 and the 12R, they're not in the game. And personally, I wouldn't really go beyond 5x zoom for the 12R and the Nord 4. And the OnePlus 12, yeah, you can decipher a bit of the text on there. This is why I use it for this extended zoom, where it's making out a bit of the text on there, but not too much. So 30x definitely the maximum. Now there is a 120x zoom mode for the OnePlus 12, but honestly, just don't bother. Stick to no more than 30x, and that's where you're going to be getting your best results. Now for all three devices, you do get the option of a high resolution JPEG mode at 50 megapixels for the main sensor, but you of course have the flexibility to do this on the ultra wide and also on the 3x zoom, which I'm going to showcase after for the OnePlus 12, because that is the flexibility that you get on all the optical focal lengths lengths from the ultra wide, the 1x and the 3x. So that is good flexibility there, that all these camera sensors are high resolution, whereas with the Nord 4 and the 12R, it is dedicated to the main sensor. But it is great to see that here, especially for the Nord 4 as a phone that starts at £429. This is definitely a very good look for it. But yeah, that's good flexibility across the board, and even more on the OnePlus 12. Let's flip to the front facing camera and look at some selfie images on the OnePlus 12, the 12R and the OnePlus Nord 4. And I have to say, I really like the color processing on the 12R and the Nord 4. I do like the OnePlus 12 in terms of the color processing. It is neutral and it is kind of, you know, well balanced, but I just like the look of what I'm seeing on the 12R and the Nord 4 in this particular situation. And when we go over to portrait mode, the colors stay consistent across the board, but in terms of the edge detection, in this particular instance, it looks like the 12R is doing the best out of the three. Then, funny enough, followed by the Nord 4 and then the 12. The 12 really struggled, and I know I ain't got really much here to really give it a challenge and everything, but this is what you're working with. And in fact, the 12R really did a good job. Last set of daylight images with the rear camera with me in the frame as the subject. And of course, we're going to be starting from the outside and working our way in. And with the ultra wide, definitely like what I'm seeing with the OnePlus 12 in terms of the colors, detail, and me in the frame as the subject. It is a good look. Then followed by the 12R, then the Nord 4. And when we go over to the main wide sensor, again, things stay consistent. I'm really liking what I'm seeing on the OnePlus 12. It just looks natural, well detailed, and balanced all across the board when it comes to the colors. Whereas the other two are doing a decent job, but they lean a bit more warmer and more reddish, but not too much. But honestly, I like the look of the 12, and the other two are not too far off, but I'll definitely put the 12R and then the Nord 4 afterwards. Let's go into the 2x digital crop mode. And again, all of them are actually doing a great job, apart from obviously the color preferences and difference there, which I definitely lean towards the OnePlus 12 a little bit more in this particular situation. You're not far off with the other two, and the detail really holds well there. Now, when we go over to the extended zoom ranges, we've got 5x on the Nord 4 and then 3x as well as 3x on the 12R and the 12. And the 3x definitely in this particular range, you're definitely going to get a better look on a OnePlus 12 because it is optically favoring it, whereas the Nord 4 is really holding up well. And we extend it further to the 5x and the 6x on the 12 and the 12R. The 12R definitely falls apart, and in fact, the Nord 4 is doing a much better job with it in this particular situation. And of course, the OnePlus 12 definitely looks the best out of the three. And running it back, the high resolution JPEG modes are available, and it's definitely advised use it in a well-lit situation like this. The odd rare day where we actually get a summer in the UK, this is something that is very helpful and very, very good in terms of using a high resolution JPEG mode, where you can do it on the wide across all your three devices, and then the ultra wide, as well as what you get with the 3x zoom on the OnePlus 12. So great flexibility on the OnePlus 12, really showing the benefits of what a flagship camera should have when it comes to flexibility. Portrait mode, and this is a situation where I have to say all of them really did a decent job. Now, I would like a bit more of a natural preference in terms of the edge detection and the look of the blur, but at least it's not overdoing it where it gives it that overly digital look. It does struggle with blurring a bit of the tree on the left, but overall with me in the frame as the subject, the edge detection is good across the board, and it does actually do the gaps in between my arms really well, so no complaints there. When we go into the 2x mode, it really does a much better job, and across the board all of them are looking very good and very consistent, and even across the board. Now, of course, with the OnePlus 12 having a 3x dedicated zoom lens, it does give you that option as well, so I'm really glad to see that they're allowing you to maximize the portrait mode across the three focal lengths that you have with it, so it's a good look. Let's turn off the lights and look at some low light images of the OnePlus 12, the OnePlus 12R and the OnePlus Nord 4. And if you've been here before with my camera comparison, or this is your first time and you appreciate the effort and the detailed nature of our camera comparisons, and you want to see more like this, then be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future camera comparisons on the Lover of Tech channel. Road to 100k subscribers for 2024, or no later than mid 2025. But of course, let's try and do it this year. It's going to be a lot of hard work, but with your support, we can definitely make it happen. What I've tried to do is actually take my low light images without night mode on, and then with night mode, and flash where applicable. This is really to show the difference in image quality and capture speed experience, because night mode can improve the exposure depending on the device and the handset and the software, but it does require longer exposure times. But this particular situation without it on, it can be quicker in some instances. We're gonna do this in the landscape images without night mode on first, but just be warned, when it comes to the OnePlus Nord 4 and the OnePlus 12R, I don't think night mode is really ever off. There is a dedicated night mode, but with the normal shooter mode, it's not really off. Whereas actually, I prefer the fact that the OnePlus 12 really does show like night mode is not really on. So the capture speed experience without it off compared to on is much quicker. But let's run through the image quality difference. You can definitely see the exposure is much more darker and natural looking to the environment for the ultra wide on the OnePlus 12. Whereas the 12R and the 4, it looks like there is some processing. So again, you're gonna notice that when we go to this section with night mode on, there probably isn't going to be much difference in the visual look. Let's move over to the main wide sensor, and in this particular situation, the strength of the main wide sensor on the OnePlus 12 really shines through. But personally, the image does look a bit warmer than I was expecting, and in some cases the highlights on the road further ahead before the blue sign is blown out, whereas better controlled on the 12R and the Nord 4, which I actually like that balance and look in that particular situation. Move over to the 2X and things stay consistent when it comes to the image and the look, but I do like the fact that they handle the lens flaring as well as the color shifting to be balanced on the street lights. But honestly, I really like the natural look of the 12R and the Nord 4 in this particular situation. Moving over to the 3X, it is to be questioned whether it's actually using a 3X zoom lens or still on a main wide sensor. It's like this in terms of obviously low light performance, and unlike some of the other manufacturers, you can't really tell it what to do in terms of which lens to use in low light. But in this situation, this is what we've got here, and the detail that you have on the 12 and the 12R definitely holding better than what you're seeing on the Nord 4, which has really fallen apart. And we'll go to the 6X zoom mode as well as the 5X respectively for the Nord 4 and the 12R. 6X on the 12, yeah, very much consistent, where the 12 and the 12R really hold it well, where things really do fall apart a bit for the Nord 4. Now let's run it back with night mode. Are you seeing the difference that with the OnePlus 12 with night mode on for the ultra wide, the difference? And of course, the capture speed exposure time was a bit longer, but actually it processed it very quickly. So in fact, my personal preference, I love the flagship flexibility that you get with the OnePlus 12 without night mode on and off. So that's a really good look. Whereas for me, Nord 4 and the 12R doesn't look any different, and it looks so much better improved than the OnePlus 12. And when we go to the main wide sensor, again, I still feel like the image is still a bit warmer than I would like. But again, if you can see that the exposure, when it comes to highlights on the road, much better controlled with night mode on, so greatly improved there. Same for the 2X, you can see the consistency improvements with night mode on, especially with the highlight control, much better compared to without it off. So this is a good look for the OnePlus 12. And of course, when we go into the 3X zoom mode, it does clean up the image a bit better. But again, I was expecting things to improve a bit better on the Nord 4, but it just really didn't do that on the 12R. Is still ahead. Now we're going to the 6X zoom mode. Again, things pretty much look very consistent and the same across the board. Even for the 12, it didn't improve as much as I was expecting it to. But alas, as stated, I don't think night mode is really ever off, even when you shoot in the normal mode. Let's move over to the front-facing camera with some selfies on the OnePlus 12, the 12R, and the Nord 4. And I have to say, the overall exposure from what we're seeing on the 12R is actually really decent. Again, it does do a bit of processing, so yeah, the night mode difference isn't really there. But this is something that we're seeing that, of course, the natural detail and look of the OnePlus 12 is actually a decent look and favored. And the Nord 4 really holds up well. I don't think you can really go wrong with all of these. And then when we go into night mode, again, I don't really see much of a difference across the board for all of these devices. So just take that into account. Night mode can be a bit of what I like to call a placebo effect. Now you can use the front screen flash for exposure, and it seems to be really more powerful on the Nord 4 and the 12R, where it's a lot subtle on the 12, more as like a feel light. So I do like the subtleness in some way, but if you want outright power, the 12R and the Nord 4 really do showcase that. Now, when we come to portrait mode, you can do it in low light, and the edge detection and the blur is really good across the board, while still keeping the consistent look and the style that they give off for the front-facing camera. Love the look of this. You can't do night mode with the portrait selfie, but you can use the front screen flash. And again, The 12 uses it more like a feel light, whereas the others are really powerful in the illumination of it. So really down to the style and choice that you like, but the edge detection and the blur looking good across the board for all of them. All right, last set of low light images with me in the frame as the subject. And of course, we're gonna run it back again like we did with the landscape images, where we're gonna do it without night mode on, with night mode on, and then flash where applicable and run it for portrait mode as well. And of course, you can see that without night mode on, the 12 really does show that natural nighttime look. And of course, the capture speed experience was much quicker, whereas the others were still counting around about 2-3 seconds. So again, there was still some processing happening. Now moving over to the main wide sensor, in this particular situation, I really like the OnePlus 12R. But again, it's relative to the fact that although we're shooting in a normal mode, it's still doing some form of processing. So we're expecting the 12 to improve when night mode is on, and the capture speed experience on the 12 was much better in this particular situation. And the Nord 4 looking good, but again, in the same behavioral way for capture as the 12R, where it's still doing some seconds counting and processing. Now the 2x zoom mode, things are looking good across the board on here, and that's something that is actually a good consistency. And again, stating again, the capture speed experience on the OnePlus 12 was much quicker because it's really showing it without night mode on. When we go over to the 3x zoom lens, again, potentially it's still doing the zoom on a main wide sensor rather than going to the 3x zoom because of the low light conditions, and there's no way to control it to actually force it to use that 3x zoom. So just take that into account. And all of them pretty much are looking very much the same, and even extending it further to 5x, 6x, and 5x zoom respectively from left to right. Yeah, it's pretty much very soft across the board and smudgy, but yeah, it's doing the best it can to hold the integrity of the image with me in the frame as a subject. Let's turn on night mode. And again, night mode from the ultra wide greatly improves for the OnePlus 12. And that's one thing I like. You then get a capture speed processing time, but it processes it very quickly and captures it very quickly compared to the others. So I have to say, I really like the look and improvement to night mode on the ultra wide with me in the frame as a subject for the OnePlus 12. Now we'll go over to the main wide sensor. In this particular situation, I still feel like the OnePlus 12R handles it best with me in the frame as a subject, and then comes the OnePlus 12 and the Nord 4, which is very interesting. Moving over to the 2x, and again, I would actually have to say the 2x mode, the OnePlus 12R is still handling it the best, and the look of it, I just feel like obviously in terms of the color tone, things become a bit more warmer and red on the OnePlus 12. I really like the look of the 12R, and the softness of the image really starts to show its head on the Nord 4, but colors wise, it really holds it well. It's just the highlights around my skin that maybe blows up a little bit more. Now we're going to the 3x zoom mode. In this particular situation, the 12 does look the best, but again, I do prefer the colors of the 12R, so take that into account. Whereas the Nord 4, again, the highlights around my skin is where it's blown up a little bit more. And then 6x with night mode on, again, I wouldn't call any of these usable in this particular situation. So yeah, don't extend any further than 3x, or ideally even keep it no further than 2x in night mode. Now let's use the flash to see the performance difference across the board, and starting with the ultra wide. Definitely, the OnePlus 12 is looking the best, and this is the advantage of it having a 48 megapixel high resolution sensor that is actually pixel binning with the extra processing and the flash illumination. Oh, it looks good. Highly recommend it if you are in low light with a group of people and want to take a group picture with the ultra wide. Use the flash. It looks amazing. Definitely recommend it. Whereas the other two, very soft, and even softer in this situation for the OnePlus 12R compared to the Nord 4. Now we'll go over to the main wide sensor. Again, the balance of the flash and the detail looks really good on the OnePlus 12, and then followed by the 12R, whereas the Nord 4 is looking a lot softer than I was expecting. So yeah, something to consider. Going to the 2x zoom mode, things really start to fall apart a lot more for the Nord 4. The image looks very grainy, and the image does become softer on the 12R, but it holds a little bit better, and the OnePlus 12 looks very clean still. Really well done here. Go over to the 3x zoom mode. What you have to be aware is on the OnePlus 12, beyond 2x into the 3x zoom mode, it doesn't actually do a pulsating flash. What it does is an always on bulb mode. Now, I still feel like they need to enable a pulsating flash to be able to do it, or probably put a more powerful flash to enable it. Whereas because the Nord 4 and the 12R are still doing a digital crop and a wing wide sensor, it still treats it that way and still does a pulsating flash. Now, the image is soft on the Nord 4, but the exposure of the light is much better. Whereas the 12R is a balance of the two, where it's not super sharp, but it's less grainy and it holds a bit better with the flash as well. And going into the 5x zoom mode with the 6x zoom, you do see that the flash illumination on the Nord 4 is still very powerful and reaches, even though the image is very grainy, it reaches there. So that actually did best in terms of flash performance, followed by the 12R, and of course the 12 non-existent because it's doing an always bulb mode. Portrait mode, and it was a very interesting portrait mode experience, especially when it came to the OnePlus 12. For some reason, in close proximity, it really wasn't blurring the background compared to what we're seeing on the 12R and the Nord 4. Especially the 12R, it performed the best, and for some reason it kept bringing up a lens blocked notification. And I don't know whether it's because of just my skin complexion high or exposure or the jacket. I couldn't really nail it down what the issue was when we were trying to get it done. But yeah, it really struggled to do that. And trust me, we tried many times. It just looked like the OnePlus 12R was the one that nailed it across the board. And when we go into the 2X mode, for then it worked on the OnePlus 12. And in fact, it holds much better when it comes to the color consistency, the edge detection, the sharpness, the detail, whereas the 12R really falls apart, and the Nord 4 as well. So I wouldn't really pick any of them between the two, but the 12 definitely holds well. And in the 3x zoom mode, you can see that it still holds well. The exposure is a bit lower, but it does look really good on the 12. But for some reason, when it came to the 1x mode, it just kept bringing up the lens block notification. Now, I put my brother in the frame as well. Obviously, he was the one that was helping me with the captures, and he's the one that does all the thumbnails on the channel as well. So he's been killing it. And of course, this t-shirt, just before I start recording this arrow with the LOT logo in there, come on, man, looking clean out here. It was not having that problem with him in 1X for the OnePlus 12. So I don't know, you know, compared to like what he was wearing with his puffer jacket and his beanie hat and his glasses, I don't know, maybe it helped with the detection or his skin complexion, or compared to mine, I couldn't tell you. But in the 1X mode, it works with him, and everything else across the board looks really consistent with the other two as well. And when we go into the 2x zoom mode with him, you can see, again, very consistent. The 12 is the one to really look out for nighttime portrait, as well as in the 3x mode. So yeah, that's literally the experience when it comes to low light and daylight pictures for the OnePlus 12, 12R and the Nord 4. Now that we've gone through analyzing the photos, it's time to look at the video performance between the OnePlus 12, the 12R and the Nord 4. Now, the best way to watch this part of the video is on the largest display possible at the highest resolution and frame rate at 4K 60 with headphones on, so you can hear the audio switching. And of course, there will be chapters linked to the description below, but definitely sit back, relax and watch it. It's gonna be a detailed one when it comes to the video performance. And we are now recording in the front-facing camera in 4K UHD, 30 frames a second video recorder mode, but this is actually only available on the front-facing camera for the OnePlus 12. The OnePlus 12R and the OnePlus Nord 4 are limited to 1080p 30 frames a second. But what we're going to do is see what the image quality is like, colors, details, dynamic range, because we do have a sunny day in the UK for once, and video stabilization. Quick run. We're still recording on the front-facing camera on the OnePlus 12, the 12R and the OnePlus Nord 4, but all of them are recording in the 1080p 30 frames a second video recorder mode. But what we've done is we've activated the extra video stabilization icon with the camera icon on the front of the Selfie UI. This should probably help the OnePlus Nord 4 a bit more. And let's see how the image quality is like across the board as we see them. Video stabilization as well. Let's do a quick run. We're still recording on the front-facing camera in 1080p 30 frames a second on the OnePlus 12, the 12R and the OnePlus Nord 4, but we have activated the video portrait mode on all three. Of course, it is limited to just 1080p 30 frames a second. We're just seeing how the background blur effect is and the image quality across the board. Now, you only get the option to change the blur effect intensity before you start recording. During recording, you can't change it, but you can obviously pause recording and continue on the same clip and take pictures as well. We are now recording in the 4K UHD 30 frames a second video recorder mode on the OnePlus 12, the OnePlus 12R and the OnePlus Nord 4. With the rear cameras, we're just seeing how the image quality is like. Image quality with the detail, sharpness, colors, dynamic range, and video stabilization. Let's do a quick run. Now the benefit that you get here with the OnePlus 12 is that in the 4K 30 frames per second video recorder mode, you can switch to the ultra wide continuously. The other cameras don't have enough of a resolution and the ability to do that. So we're going to stop and switch to the ultra wide. We're still recording on the OnePlus 12, 12R and the OnePlus Nord 4. We've now switched over to the ultra wide angle cameras, and as stated, the OnePlus 12R and the OnePlus Nord 4 are limited to 1080p 30 FPS when it comes to the ultra wide. Whereas with the OnePlus 12, you are still able to record in 4K 30 and even switch between the rear lenses, as you can see, and still maintain the optical quality at each range. So yeah, this allows you to pretty much have the extra flexibility on the OnePlus 12, but just not on the others. So just be aware, as it doesn't automate the resolution change. See the video stabilization, quick run. Right. We're now recording in the 4K UHD 30 frames per second video recorder mode on the OnePlus 12, the 12R and the OnePlus Nord 4. But we've now gone into the 2x mode. This is doing the digital main crop on the main wide sensor across the board. We're just seeing how the image quality is like, the digital crop zoom quality. So here we are in terms of the image quality here. We're going to go to the 3x. You can see it changes optically. There isn't a 3x zoom. I'm going to match it here and match 3x. And we're going to do 6x, which is kind of like a digital optical zoom range. 5x on here, 5x on here, and we're going to go to back to 1x, back to 1x. The UI usage is better on the 12 and also the Nord 4. We are now recording in the 4K UHD 60 frames per second video recorder mode on the rear cameras for the OnePlus 12, OnePlus 12R and the OnePlus Nord 4. We're just seeing how the image quality is like. Colors, details, dynamic range, sharpness, and video stabilization. Let's do a quick run. Now, of course, the benefit that you do get with the OnePlus 12 is that even in the 4K 60, you can switch between the rear cameras, ultra wide, ×2, 3x, 6x, all continuously without having to stop recording. Whereas the others, they're limited to just 4K 60 on the main cameras. So we're going to stop and switch over. We've now switched to the ultra wide angle camera for the OnePlus 12, 12R and the OnePlus Nord 4. But as you can see, the OnePlus 12R and the Nord 4 are limited to just 1080p 30 frames per second. They don't even have a 60 FPS option for the ultra wide angle cameras. You do have this option for the OnePlus 12 in 4K 60, so it's great flexibility. And like I said, you can switch between the 1x, 3x, 6x, and this is all the way back to the ultra wide. So great flexibility. You can't switch to the selfie camera like you can do on some of the other competition like Samsung, but you can at least do that, take pictures, pause recording, and continue recording on the same clip. So much better flexibility when it comes to 60 FPS recording on a OnePlus 12. We are now back to recording in the 4K UHD 60 frames per second video recorder mode on all three devices for the OnePlus 12, 12R and the Nord 4. We're now in the 2x digital crop mode on the main wide sensor, and we're just doing a steady walk to see how the image quality is like as we are pretty much going through. Let's do a switch. We're going to go to the 3x zoom mode on the OnePlus 12 match the others to it. We're going to zoom into ×6 and we're going to go 5x here. And we're going to go back to 1x, come back to 1x and 1x. We have now enabled the ultra steady mode on the OnePlus 12, the OnePlus 12R, as well as the OnePlus Nord 4. This mode actually gives you two options for 1080p 30 and 1080p 60, but not in 4K or 1440p. So this gives you the option to do that. Let's see how they are as we're doing an ultra fast run. We are now recording in the 4K UHD 30 frames per second video recorder mode on the OnePlus 12, the OnePlus 12R, and the OnePlus Nord 4. We've now placed me in the frame as the subject, and of course we do have a nice day today. So we're pretty much seeing how the image quality is like when it comes to colors, details, sharpness, dynamic range, and just how it handles me in the frame as the subject with the environment. We're going to do a slow walk back. It's just more just to see if there's an exposure change as we change a bit of the scenery. Go, sun beaming and shining. We're now recording on the ultra-wide camera for the OnePlus 12, the 12R, and the Nord 4. Of course, with me in the frame as the subject, testing it with the environment, what you will notice is the difference in the image quality. The OnePlus 12 does allow you to do this in 4K 30, whereas the OnePlus 12R and the Nord 4 is limited to 1080p 30. No 60 FPS option even at 1080p at all on the ultra-wide. This is great flexibility on the OnePlus 12. And what you will notice is with the OnePlus 12, which is the one in the middle, you can go from the 0.6 to the 1x, and you can come back to the ultra wide, which is the 0.6. So the flexibility without having to stop recording makes this viable if you care about video. We're back to recording in the 4K UHD 30 frames per second video recorder mode on the OnePlus 12, the 12R, and the OnePlus Nord 4. We're now in the 2x digital crop mode on the main wide sensor. We're just seeing how the image quality is like with me in the frame as a subject and also with the environment. We are now recording in the 4K UHD 30 frames per second video recorder mode on the OnePlus 12, the 12R, and the OnePlus Nord 4. We're now in the 3x zoom mode. Now this is optically going to favor on the OnePlus 12 in the middle, whereas the others are still doing the digital crop. So let's see how the image quality is like with me in the frame as a subject, far distance zoom, as well as the environment image quality. Again, maximum zoom quality at 6x, and this is definitely going to optically favor what we're seeing on the OnePlus 12 compared to the OnePlus 12R and the Nord 4. Running it back again, but this time in a 4K UHD 60 frames per second video recorder mode on the OnePlus 12, the 12R, and the Nord 4. Starting with the main camera sensor, with me in the frame as the subject, with the environment, and of course the sunny day that we have, which is such a difference maker. We're testing the dynamic range when it comes to detail, sharpness, and color, and seeing how it handles me in the frame with the environment. We're still recording on the rear cameras for the OnePlus 12, 12R, and the Nord 4, but we've switched to the ultra wide. And as you saw previously, with the ultra wide angle camera on the OnePlus 12 and the Nord 4, it is limited to just 1080p 30 frames per second, whereas the OnePlus 12 in the middle does still allow you to record in 4K 60. And in fact, the flexibility of the OnePlus 12 in the middle allows you to go from the ultra wide to the 1X, and you can switch back to the ultra wide. So again, continuous recording on the same clip without having to stop recording. This is great, and that's what makes it the more flagship device. We are back recording in the 4K UHD 60 frames per second video recording mode on the OnePlus 12, the 12R and the Nord 4. We're now doing the 2X digital crop on the main wide sensor. We're just seeing how the image quality is like across the board, and yeah, seeing how it handles with me in the frame as a subject. We are now recording still in the 4K UHD 60 frames per second video recording mode on the OnePlus 12, the 12R and the Nord 4. We're now in the 3X zoom mode, and again, this should be optically favoring what you're seeing on the OnePlus 12, whereas the others are doing the digital crop. We're just seeing how it handles with me in the frame as a subject. We're still recording in the 4K UHD 60 frames per second video recording mode on the OnePlus 12, the 12R and the Nord 4. We're now in the maximum 6X zoom mode. This is definitely going to optically favor what we're seeing on the middle of the OnePlus 12, whereas the others are doing the digital crop at the 4K 60 FPS. Let's see the image quality difference. We've now dropped down to the 1080p 30 frames per second video recorder mode on the OnePlus 12, the 12R and the Nord 4, but we are in the video portrait mode, where when you do press on the F icon for the aperture effect, it does allow the simulated background blur effects. Now default is f4.5 simulated across the board, and we're just seeing how the image quality is like across these three devices. We're still recording in the video portrait mode on the OnePlus 12, the 12R and the Nord 4, 1080p, 30 FPS. We're now in the 2X mode. We're just seeing how with the distance at 2X, how the image quality is like in a blur effect with the background. We're still recording in the 1080p 30 frames per second video recorder mode with the portrait mode effect on. We're now in the 3X zoom mode. This should optically be favoring the middle phone, which is the OnePlus 12. We're just seeing how the background effect is like in the video portrait mode. We're still recording in the 1080p 30 frames per second video recorder mode on the OnePlus 12, the 12R and the OnePlus Nord 4. We're at the maximum zoom mode at 6X and 5X respectively, still in the video portrait mode. This is going to be a tough challenge, but let's see how the image quality is like. We are now recording in the rear-facing camera in 4K UHD 30 frames per second video recorder mode on the OnePlus 12, the OnePlus 12R and OnePlus Nord 4. And we're just seeing how the image quality is like in low light. Checking the lens flaring. We've now switched to the ultra wide on the OnePlus 12, OnePlus 12R, and OnePlus Nord 4. But just to clarify that with the OnePlus Nord 4 and the OnePlus 12R, because the resolution of those sensors are lower, it is only recording in 1080p compared to still being on 4K with the OnePlus 12. And of course, the OnePlus 12, you get the flexibility to switch between the lenses while recording continuously in 4K. And this is all down to the fact that you can actually have 4K across all the lenses. We're still recording in a 4K UHD 30 frames a second video recorder mode on the OnePlus 12, 12R and Nord 4. We've just gone into the 2x crop mode now and just seeing how the image quality is like. We are now recording still in the 4K UHD 30 frames a second video recorder mode. We've now gone into the 3x zoom mode, and this is to match what is available on the OnePlus 12. And we're still recording in the 4K UHD 30 frames a second video recorder mode. We've now gone into the 6x zoom mode on the OnePlus 12, 5x zoom on the OnePlus 12R, and 5x zoom on the OnePlus Nord 4. Back to 1x mode, back to 1x, back to 1x. We're now recording in a 4K UHD 30 frames a second video recorder mode on the rear cameras on the OnePlus 12, the OnePlus 12R and the OnePlus Nord 4. Again, with me in the frame as the subject, we're just seeing how it handles low light performance with me in the frame, with the environment as well. We've now dropped down to the 1080p 30 frames a second video recorder mode, but this actually allows us to do the video portrait background blur. You can see it with the f-stop icon on the video, and you can obviously change the blur depth before you start recording. The default is f2.8 as you saw in the daytime shots, and we're pretty much seeing how it performs in low light with me in the frame as the subject. We are now recording in a front-facing camera on the OnePlus 12, the OnePlus 12R and the OnePlus Nord 4. Of course, the OnePlus 12 does allow the option of 4K UHD 30 frames a second, while the 12R and the Nord 4 are limited to 1080p 30. Still on the front-facing camera, now in 1080p across the board, we've put the active stabilization option with the camera icon on for all three, just to see how that looks like in low light. Now that is it with this definitive camera comparison between the OnePlus 12, the OnePlus 12R and the OnePlus Nord 4. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. That's it from me, Ben from Lover of Tech. If you enjoy videos like this, you know exactly what to do. Hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're part of Team TLS to Tech Lover Squad so you don't miss any future videos on the channel. I hope you're all safe during this time. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.